much as you can practice to write chemical formula, it's gonna be very easy for you. Okay, guys? Yani, without practicing, you will not be able to write the chemical formula. You will find it hard. Without knowing how to write the chemical formula, you can't continue with us. You can't make the balance for chemical equations. We studied that, guys, the chemical equation. If you have any chemical equation, or if you want to write it, you have reactants and you have products. Look at the screen. For example, if you look at this one here, the reactants are X plus Y, right? And the products here, you have X, Y, as you see. The types of atoms you have here, you have X atom in the reactant. Also, you have X in the product. And for example, you can't put X in the reactant and the X in the product, it will disappear. It won't. If you put X in the product, you have also X. Okay? For example, you add a Y, also in the product, you should have what? You should have Y. If you're talking about the numbers in any chemical equation, and if you put, let's say this one here represent X atom, this one, number 1. If you put one X atom, and the product should be how many X atoms also? It should be also one X atom. If you put one Y atom in the reactant, in the product, you should have also what? One Y. Yani you can't put 2Y in the reactant and find them only one. This is the thing that we're going to talk about today. How to make number of atoms in the reactant the same in the product. Because we have mentioned that depending on the conservation of mass, the atoms, the type of atoms, the number of atoms, the mass should be the same in the reactant and in the product, should be balanced together. As you put in the reactant, you will find in the product. You understand this? The title, what I'm going to do now, I have to balance chemical equation. What does balancing of chemical equation mean? I have to put the same type, the same numbers. They should be the same numbers of atoms, and the reactant should be the same in the product. Now we're going to learn how to write the what are the steps to do this by doing the chemical equations and balance chemical equations. If you don't memorize the step and you don't follow the steps, you will find it hard for you. If you don't know how to write the chemical formula, you're gonna find it very hard for you. That's why I told you, miss, make sure that you understand to write the chemical formula. Okay, Saif? Okay, Saif?
Can you repeat it?
Repeat what? I'm telling you what we are going to do. We're going to balance chemical equation. I didn't start yet. Okay, Saif?
Okay, miss.
Pay me your attention, miss. Pay me your attention. If I have a chemical equation, look at this chemical equation. You have N2, which is nitrogen, plus H2, which is hydrogen. The product, which is NH3. Who can remind me, what do we call this number that is down? What do we call the number that is down here? This number 3, this number 2, this number 2 here. What do we call this number? What did we give it?
Miss?
Yes, Sami.
Subscript.
Thank you. This number is called subscript. From this subscript, what are the things that you can tell us?
The number of atoms.
The number of atoms. From this, thank you, Osama. From this equation, how many nitrogen atoms you can see in the reactant? I'm talking about reactants before the arrow. How many nitrogen atoms you can see, Osama?
2.
They are 2, thank you. Qais. Qais?
Yes, miss.
Miss. In the reactants, how many hydrogen atoms you can see?
ايش ما سمعتكش منيح.
Look at the screen and pay me your attention. How many hydrogen atoms in the reactant?
3, miss.
How many hydrogen atoms in the reactant?
Two, miss. Two.
They are 2. طيب يا إبراهيم نبيل. إبراهيم نبيل.
Yes, miss.
Yes, Yamis. Look at the product. The product in H3. How many nitrogen atoms do you have?
1.
Only 1. Thank you. طيب إبراهيم سعيد. إبراهيم سعيد. Ibrahim, can you hear me, miss?
Yes, yes.
Miss. How many hydrogen atoms in the product?
3.
There are 3 hydrogen atoms. That if you look at this equation again. Are number of nitrogen in the reactants the same as the product? Are nitrogen atoms in the reactant the same as in the product? Yeah, Hashim?
Yes, miss.
Look at this equation. Are number of nitrogen atoms the same as the nitrogen atoms in the product, in the reactant? Are they the same in the product?
No, miss.
They are not the same. So, is this chemical equation correct? We have mentioned in any chemical reaction, ya Hashim, the number of atoms in the reactants, the same of atoms in the reactant, the mass should be the same as in the product. So, what is the thing shall we do to make this chemical equation correct chemical equation? We are going to make something which called what? How to balance chemical equation. How to make these numbers the same as in the product and in the reactant, make them the same. Look at this equation again. Look at the other equation. You can see these are the subscript. All of you know the subscript now. The number that is below and it's small, right? So if you look at the same equation, you have here numbers. Can you see these numbers in front of the molecule? Look at this one, big number. Can you see this big number? These numbers, we use them and we put them to balance the chemical equation. That how we put them. Is it a random number? Are they random numbers? For sure, they are not random numbers. We're going to learn the steps how to put them. Then, what is the name of this number? The name of this number, a coefficient. It's called what? Coefficient. What is the meaning of coefficient? Is a number placed in front of a chemical formula. Use coefficient to balance a chemical equation. We use it to balance chemical equation. How? We will talk about it later. But again, what is this number here? Represent what? Or here it's called what? Coefficient. Okay? So what are the things that help me this coefficient to know? If you look at number 2 in front of C, which is carbon. From this one here, how many carbon atoms you can see? From this one, yeah, Karam. How many carbon atoms you can see from this equation? Here, in the reactant, how many carbon atoms are they? Excuse me? No, I can't hear you well, miss.
There are 2 carbon atoms.
2 carbon atoms. Do you agree, Saif Nader? Saif Nader, do you agree with Karam? They are 2 carbon atoms in the reactant?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
he said also yes. Then, let's look at oxygen in the reactants. How many oxygen atoms in the reactant? How many oxygen atoms in the reactant? Yeah, Saifuddin. Saifuddin. Look at the reactant. Look at oxygen. How many oxygen atoms are they?
2.
They are 2. From the subscript, I can tell they are 2 oxygen atoms. Then, let's continue. From the coefficient, I can tell I have 2 carbon atoms. Also, I can tell from the subscript, I have 2 oxygen atoms. Let's look at the product. I'll tell you now about this coefficient 2. This 2, it's for both, for carbon and for oxygen. Again, this 2, it's for both, for carbon and it's for oxygen. So yeah, Nart, can you hear me, Nart?
Yes, miss.
Nart, from this equation, look at the product. You have 2 CO. How many carbon atoms are they?
Only one.
Okay, what did I say about this 2? I told you this 2 is for both, for carbon and oxygen. So how many carbon atoms are they?
2.
They are 2 carbon atoms. Thank you. Then, what about oxygen? How many oxygen atoms are they? Look at the product in art. You told me there are 2. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm 2.
Also 2. Thank you. So, Nart said that because I have this 2 as a coefficient, I have 2 carbon because it's for both, for carbon and oxygen. Then, what is the subscript here? Can you see any subscript, guys? Usama, can you see any subscript?
Yes, teacher.
Amis, look at the product. Can you see any subscript?
No.
No subscript. But actually, when it's 1, we don't write it, right? When it's 1, we don't write it. CO, which means 1 carbon, 1 oxygen, but I have 2 CO, that means 2 carbon, 2 oxygen. That means I multiply this 2 with the number 1 here and number 1 here. Okay, miss? Are you with me? Are you confusing now, guys? Did you get confused, miss?
Yes, يعني. Miss.
Wait, I'm going to repeat this. هلا Nart told me that because I have this 2, which is called coefficient. This 2, it's for both, for carbon and for oxygen, which means I have 2 carbon and I have 2 oxygen, right? Then imagine with me now, imagine, yani forget about this equation. I give you this one here. You have subscript 2. So how many carbon and how many oxygen atoms, if I have subscript 2, I have to multiply this coefficient with the subscript. That will tell me I have 4 oxygen atoms instead of 2. Imagine this. Imagine, forget about the whole equation, guys. Forget about the whole thing. I'm giving you like this example. If I have this chemical formula, 2CO2, I'll ask you, how many carbon atoms are they? You will tell me they are 2 because this coefficient, it's for both, for carbon and oxygen. That if you have 2CO2, how many oxygen atoms are they? Yeah, Yusuf Yaqub? How many oxygen atoms are they, miss?
Miss 2.
Look at it again. Look at it again. You have
4.
2CO2. This coefficient, it's for both carbon and oxygen. So how many oxygen atoms are they?
1.
Miss, look at the screen.
Miss 4.
They are 4. They are 4. Why 4? Because this coefficient, it's again, I have to multiply it with the subscript. So because here the subscript is 1, so I have 2 for carbon. You don't have number here, right? You don't have number here. That means you have 2 carbon atoms. Type. What about oxygen? I have this subscript, which is 2. So 2 times 2, which is 4 oxygen atoms. You understand this one? You understand this one?
Yes,
I'll
miss.
give you another example, guys. I'll give you
Yes,
another example. Look at this example. You have H2O, or actually you have 2H2O, like this. Wait. Yeah, from this chemical formula, how many hydrogen atoms do I have here, yeah? Basil?
Yes, miss.
Basil? Can you hear me, miss?
Yes, miss.
Yalla, miss. From this chemical formula, I told you you have 2H2O. How many hydrogen atoms are they?
2.
This coefficient, it's for both, yeah, miss. For hydrogen and
معناته
oxygen.
1 يا miss. Miss 1
Miss 2H2O. This 2, yeah, Basil, it's for both, for hydrogen and it's for oxygen at the same time. So how many hydrogen atoms are they?
Miss 1.
From where you got 1?
مش بعرف انت قلت يا مس.
Look at the screen. Look at the screen.
مساني بطلع.
Yeah, what do you have? What are the numbers that you have? What is the subscript of hydrogen? From this chemical formula, what is the subscript of hydrogen, miss? Miss, can you see the screen, ya Basil?
Miss yes miss.
Yeah, do you know what is the subscript?
بس الصراحة لا.
Oh, because you weren't with us last time. طيب يا يوسف يعقوب. يوسف يعقوب.
Yes, miss.
يلا يا يوسف. What is the subscript of hydrogen?
2.
It's 2. Okay. What is the coefficient for the whole molecule?
2.
2. Yeah, Basil, this number which is down here is called the subscript. Yeah, شو اسمك انت؟ Basil, this number here, the small number here, we call it subscript. And this number here is called what? Coefficient. This coefficient, it's for the whole molecule. But this subscript, it's only for hydrogen. Got it, Yamas? You know now the difference between these two numbers?
Yes miss.
Okay, type. So you know now the difference between these two numbers. Let's go back to it again. Can you do it now? Hydrogen for H2H2O. How many hydrogen atoms do I have here in this molecule? يلا miss, you have 2H2O. How many hydrogen atoms in this molecule?
Miss,
Miss.
can I try?
يلا, go ahead.
3.
From where you got 3? 2H2O. I told you this 2, it's for both, for hydrogen and for oxygen. I have here a subscript. Yes. How many hydrogen atoms are they?
Hydrogen atoms. 6.
You miss. It's not guessing. Just look at the screen. Sami. Sami? They are 4. Why 4?
Miss, because the 2 is for the hydrogen and the oxygen. Each one of them take 1. In the script.
No, it's not each one. It's for both. For both. I didn't tell you give 1 to hydrogen and give 1 for oxygen. I told you this 2, it's for both. So here, 2 times 2, the subscript, you multiply the coefficient with the 2, which is the subscript. That means you have how many hydrogen atoms? You have 4, ya Radi. Okay? So what about oxygen? How many oxygen atoms are they? How many oxygen atoms are they here?
1.
Yeah, miss, look at the coefficient. Look at the screen, guys. Radi.
None.
Radi. Radi, can you hear me, miss? Radi is not here. طيب آدم.
بس يمكن صار عنده disconnect.
Okay, Adam.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, Adam. How many oxygen atoms are there here in this molecule?
1.
Miss, you have
No.
2H2O. I told you this 2, it's for both. So how many high oxygen atoms?
2.
They are 2. Okay? So why they are 4 hydrogen atoms? Because I have this subscript, I multiply the coefficient with what? With the subscript. So which means I have 4 hydrogen atoms. Then for oxygen, how many oxygen atoms I have? I have 2. I multiply it with the coefficient here because I don't write it. That means it's 1. So 2 times 1, which means how many oxygen atoms? They are 2. Okay? Then how many molecules of H2O you have here? How many molecules? How many molecules? Miss, in the exam, I'll ask you like this. I'll give you like this chemical formula, 2H2O. I'll tell you how many hydrogen atoms.
Miss, صار عندي connection lost.
طيب, okay, Miss. How many oxygen atoms? I'll ask you how many water molecule you have here. So for hydrogen, I have to look at it. How many hydrogen atoms? I told you have how many hydrogen atoms from this? I have 4, right? So how many oxygen atoms? I have 2. So how many molecules of water? Because I have this 2, that means how many molecules? I have 2 molecules. Is it clear now? Is it clear, Miss?
Yes,
Miss, clear.
Write this down. I'm going to give you another example. Or take a screenshot. Take a screenshot. I'll give you another example. The other example you have NH. Let's say no. 3NH3. يلا يا هاشم. هاشم.
Yes, Miss.
Look at this molecule. You have 3NH3. Okay?
Yes.
How many nitrogen atoms?
Miss Nitrogen.
Yeah, how many nitrogen atoms do you have here?
Nitrogen.
3NH3.
Okay, Miss. Okay, هسه 3. No, nitrogen atom.
This is 3, it's for both, I told you. It's for nitrogen and for hydrogen.
Yes.
Okay. So how many nitrogen atoms are they?
مس النيتروجين بس قاعد بشوف بس
يلا.
مس النيتروجين هو بجروب 15 صح؟
Excuse me? هلا شو بدك فيها بأي جروب؟ Look at the screen.
اوكي مس هسه 3 4 بوي مس هسه مس هاي النيتروجين 3
النيتروجين كم؟
3 atoms.
Okay. Nitrogen 3 atoms. طيب. How many hydrogen atoms?
مس 6 atoms صح؟
Thank you. They are 6. لا شو 6? 3 times 3, not adding, multiplying.
Oh, okay, 9.
Multiplying.
Okay, 9.
So how many hydrogen atoms?
9 atoms.
You have 9 atoms. طيب. How many molecules you have?
3.
Thank you. Is it clear now? Is it clear, Miss?
Yes,
You know how to solve these questions now?
Yes, Miss. It's pretty easy.
يلا إن شاء الله يا مس. يلا. Take a screenshot of this. I'll give you another example. Done?
Yes, teacher.
Okay. The other example now, you have 2O2. You have 2O2. How many oxygen atoms do you have here? Yeah. Who didn't answer? Yes, يا راضي. راضي?
Yes, Miss.
يلا, how many oxygen atoms do you have?
2 oxygen atom.
Are they 2?
Yes, Miss.
Okay,
سعادة أنا أجاوب.
and look at the coefficient together.
سعادة أنا أجاوب.
أي كرم.
Yes, Miss.
How many oxygen atoms do you have here? You have 2O2.
4.
They are 4, يا راضي. Why? Because this coefficient, I multiply it with the 2, which is the subscript. I get what? 4 oxygen. طب how many molecules of oxygen? يلا يا راضي.
Yes, miss.
يلا, how many molecules do you have here of oxygen? You have 2 O2, so how many molecules are they?
بس هلا حكينا 4
4
oxygen
atoms. طب how many molecule? The coefficient represent number of molecules. So how many molecules do I have here?
How many?
سعدان أجاوب.
Amas. How many molecules? The coefficient represent
Miss,
number
2.
of molecules. So how many molecules?
2 يا مس.
They are 2. راضي. ما بحكي لك coefficient number of molecules. The coefficient is 2. So how many molecules they are? 2. Okay?
Okay, miss.
Did you take this? Did you write this down, guys?
Yes.
Yes, teacher.
طب why I'm talking about the coefficient? Why I told you how to know number of atoms and number of molecules? Because till now we didn't talk about how to balance chemical equation. We want to learn how to balance chemical equation. You have to know this. Only coefficients, not subscript, can be changed when balanced chemical equation. Yani when we start to learn how to write the chemical equation, how to balance the chemical equation, the number that we change to make the number of atoms and in reactants and the product the same, only the coefficient. Yani during balancing, you change only the coefficient, you don't change the subscript. The subscript again, ya Basil, the number which is below, but the coefficient, the number in front of the molecule. Okay, you can compare now between the coefficient and the subscript.
Yes, miss.
And this chemical equation that you have here on the screen, it shows, like we said, there are 2 carbon atoms and 2 oxygen atoms in each side. And in each side, you see how many carbon atoms in the reactant? You see 2 carbon atoms, right? In the product, how many carbon atoms we said? How many carbon atoms here? How many carbon atoms are they here? Yeah, Ibrahim Nabil. How many carbon atoms are here, miss?
2.
2, good job. So here in the product, I have 2 carbon. In the reactant, I have 2 carbon atoms. That for oxygen, how many oxygen atoms are they in the reactant? How many oxygen atoms are they?
2 يا مس.
They are 2. In the product, how many oxygen atoms do I have for oxygen? In the product, 4. Also 2. So this equation that you see on the screen, it's balanced chemical equation. No problem with it. Yani this one is a correct chemical equation. It's balanced chemical equation. Next time we're going to learn what are the steps to balance the chemical equation. Yani if you look at this one here on the screen, number of nitrogen atoms are 2 in the reactants, but here in the product, it's only 1. Hydrogen, 2 in the reactant, 3 in the product. But what are we going to do to make this chemical equation the same? What we are going to do here, we make we are going to what? We're going to change the coefficient. Look, I'm going to change these coefficient, the numbers here, to what? To get balanced chemical equation. Yani if you here change these coefficient, that will give you what? That will give you excuse me, that will give you what? The balanced chemical equation. But we don't change what? We don't change the subscript. The subscript, I'll keep them the same. Next time we will talk about these steps, how to what? How to balance this chemical equation. Okay, guys? Okay, Yamas? I'm going to post 2 videos on I already posted 2 videos on Portal for chemistry. Please, before tomorrow's class, you have to watch them, both of them. You have to watch them before I start, okay? Because these 2 videos help you to know the introduction, how to balance chemical equation. In the class, I'm going to explain step by step. Okay, miss?
Okay, miss. Thank
Okay,
you.
Abdullah. Okay, ya Sami, Saifdeen, Radi. Do you have any question now?
No,
No,
miss.
miss.
Okay, guys, if you don't have any question, you can leave. Ibrahim Nabil, do you have a question?
Thank
You're
you,
raising
miss.
your
Bye.
hand.
No, miss. Thank you. Have a nice
No,
day.
miss.
Okay, bye, miss.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye, miss.
Bye.
يعطيك العافية يا مس.
Thank
Allah
Bye, miss. Thank you and have a nice day.